Do you wish that all things wealth and finance were much easier to understand and not presented by a bunch of beige cardigan-wearing geeks? Welcome to the Clever Investor Podcast, where we're dishing up the easiest to understand finance program served in bite-sized chunks, so your brain will thank you as your knowledge grows. Hosted by the brilliant Owen Taylor, a multiple award-winning expert with a glorious knack for explaining the complex world of wealth in the simplest of ways.
Hello, clever investors, and welcome to another show. Today, I want to talk about the pitfalls of doing your own research. We've all got far too much information in our pockets. We walk around with computing power that our grandparents could have only dreamed about. And there is some danger to doing this. Joining us today again is Dr. Tony Hayek from Blue Wealth Property, who is an expert on all things researching. Tony, please tell me, what is the pitfalls of somebody embracing Dr. Google at home with a glass of red wine and just doing their own research, not just on property, but really just on anything? But I see so much of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing, I've been involved in property research now for over 20 years. And the number one pitfall is that people drown in information. Yeah. So the pitfall is that you embark on this research in order to help you make a decision. You end up making no decision because you're bombarded by conflicting information, and you really don't know what you're looking for. Yeah, it's like your golf game. Someone says, you know what, you need to practice more. But if you're practicing the wrong thing, all you're doing is making it worse. So someone needs to teach you how to do it properly before the practice has any kind of impact. And so what you're essentially doing by jumping on Dr. Google is you're practicing the wrong thing. Are you even looking at the right thing? You can have two data sets that come up with a different number for the growth rate of houses in Melbourne or units in Brisbane or townhouses in Sydney or whatever that might be. And so what do you know what to believe? And if you looked into the methodology behind the way that data is delivered, will you know what to look for and will you know which one is right? And so for us, we've built a research model that's been independently audited, built by me, who is a PhD graduate. And so therefore I'm a researcher. That's what I do.
So you've kind of been taught a very exacting way of how to conduct research and analyse what you've got in front of you.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'll give you a very simple example. Before helmets were mandatory, okay, on motorcycles. You're a motorcycle rider.
Yep.
So if you're conducting research on the injuries or the death rate created by motorcycle accidents, you'll find that pre and post the compulsory use of helmets, the data will be different, no question. Okay. But about deaths. Now let's talk about injuries, head injuries. Okay. And what you'll find is, or just injuries from motorcycle accidents, the number of injuries or injured people post wearing helmets is higher. So someone who's not a researcher goes, well, wow, why should we wear helmets? There's been more injuries since people started wearing helmets. Why is that? Because before they wore helmets, they weren't registered as an injury because they died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, an example as simple as that gives people an idea of what can go wrong when they're out there researching, whatever the topic might be. Yeah, the dishwasher, how to fix your plumbing, what property to buy, what car to buy. There's so many variables that someone who's not accustomed to conducting research can get caught up in.
Now, it's time for a little word from today's podcast sponsor.
Blue Wealth Property is the go-to hub for property investment education events. If you're new to investing and aren't sure if it's the right financial choice, or you just don't know where to get started, our Wealth Through Property event is perfect for you. Upcoming Wealth Through Property events. On the 29th of June, it's live in Sydney CBD at the Hilton Hotel on George Street. On the 5th of July, it goes to Sydney's Northern Beaches at the DY RSL. All events start at 7 p.m, going for 90 minutes, with question and answer time after every single event. Go to bluewealth.com.au and book your spot now. In research, there is the term of confirmation bias, where you go looking to support the argument that you have in your head.
Yep.
Does that happen though with property researching though, when people are looking for, surely if it's an investment property?
Of course, people. It's amazing, even culturally. If I use our Asian clients as an example, they come from highly dense cities around the world where people live in medium density. More people live in medium density than in low density. So more people live in apartments than live in houses.
Yep.
And so therefore they generally have a preconditioned bias towards apartments. And they have them in cities. Yeah, so major city apartments are something that they are fundamentally biased towards. Whereas low-density cultures, if we use the sort of traditional Anglo-Australian, we look at, the Great Australian Dream, the quarter-acre block with the picket fence, that's been preconditioned in us over generations. And so therefore, our belief system, taught to us by our uncle who knows everything but owns nothing, is that we should buy houses or land.
Yep.
Now, depending on where you are in the country and at what part of the cycle, both of those approaches are correct.
Yes.
Yeah. I wish I'd bought, apartments in some of the inner city suburbs of Sydney. I wish I'd bought houses in some, outer suburbs of Melbourne. I wish it all depends on the timing, the demographic shift, the population growth, the type of population growth, the infrastructure that's being spent, and so on. So there's lots of different variables that will ultimately determine what is right and what is not so right.
Please, a warning to everybody, when you are sitting at home, I'll be blunt, thinking that you're doing research on a subject that you're really not qualified for, tread carefully. My father taught me many years ago that you should surround yourself with experts who can explain what they do to you like you're a 12-year-old, and I still embrace that idea to this very day. When you are talking to your mortgage broker, your property advisor, your financial advisor, I think you should get them to explain in your first meeting exactly what they do, and if they can explain it simply for you, then you've got someone who's going to be able to decipher all this complex information to you.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most significant pieces of feedback that I've been given over 2 decades of educating people on property investment. You make it so simple. You and your team make it so simple to understand. Yeah, we've been to other presentations, or we've read stuff online, or we've listened to podcasts, but we've never walked away with so much clarity. And I think that's probably one of our gifts, is taking what is a very complex environment and delivering it in a way that people can understand it.
Thank you for that, short and sharp, and we'll see you on another edition of The Clever Investor. If you like today's show, please hit the like button, give us a review, thumbs up, tell your friends and family. We'll see you again next week.
You have been listening to the Clever Investor Podcast, proudly sponsored this week by Blue Wealth Property. Are you ready to start a new investment journey? Get in touch with the industry leaders, Blue Wealth Property. Blue Wealth have a proven track record in using research to identify growth markets. And Blue Wealth have supported thousands of Australians to buy the right property in the right market at the right time. Go to bluewealth.com.au.